When you look at your life, your friends, your relationships, your business associates, your partners, you always have to say, are they the type of people, the type of comrades of courage that I want to go to for help? And am I that type of person? And it takes trust, it takes preparation, it takes fortitude and resilience and connection, authenticity, compassion, empathy, all those core values that build that relationship that lead to the next step.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Keynote Curators podcast. I'm Seth Dechtman, your Keynote Curator. Our guest today is Waldo Waldman. Waldo, welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here.
Waldo, that's your call sign because you've done 2,650 flight hours leading combat missions worldwide. I just wanted to tune our listeners into that. But I want to get right into the heart of the matter here, Waldo. Being an aviator, a combat aviator, a business leader, people come to you for problem solving, for leadership, for counsel. And it's not by accident. It's a lifetime of being in the air. As pilots say, we call it horas de vuelo in Spanish, hours in the air. Share with our audience, share with our listeners, what is the mindset? What is the process that it takes to become somebody that is sought after for counsel, for leadership, for tips, for advice? Lay the table down for us on that a little bit.
So it's an insightful question because I think it always starts with the person staring back at you when you wake up every morning and salute that Top Gun who's getting ready to execute in life as a business person, as a parent, as a member of your community. You have to build trust and confidence in that person staring back at you. I always say the most important wingman or wingman there is yourself. And so when you look at what excites you, I have a saying, it's not what keeps us up at night that's as important as what gets us out of bed. What drives you, what excites you, what gets you focused on love and joy, not just about fear. And the reason why I say that is that when you're building influence with others, relationships, trust in business and in life, when you're leading your children or delivering a speech or on a podcast or a sales call, your cohort, your peer, the person that you're influencing needs to sense that energy and passion and excitement from you in life. It's the marinade. It's the impetus to action. And so when I talk about never flying solo and being a wingman, which is the core of my speeches, it's always yourself. So everything I do, reading something spiritual every day, doing my yoga practice, trying to excite myself and build trust in myself so I can send that energy and love and excitement to the people that I'm influencing. And so I think when you have that core, you get people to listen more, you build relationships, and people are like, all right, what's the next step? Tell me more about what you offer. Because if you don't have that, if they don't trust that connection with you, then nothing else matters, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know how well you take care of our clients when you present, but I can feel that that's a core virtue for you. And, you hear words like trust, you hear words like connecting and relationships, and they can be cliche.
Sure.
But that connective tissue, Waldo, of being able to be approachable and have that trust be embedded, really take hold, woven into that relationship. There's the word relationship. But there is that skill, that muscle, that ability, that empathy, intelligence to be able to be approachable. Because one thing is you're out there, you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, you trust yourself, and you know what you are capable of. But that ability to be open and accessible enough for others to come and extend themselves to you and then be vulnerable, really.
Sure.
Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't know enough. I'm going to ask. That's a key element to that.
Yeah, and it taps into the true north of what I do, what a wingman is that person that others feel comfortable going to for help. When you look at your life, your friends, your relationships, your business associates, your partners, you always have to say, are they the type of people, the type of comrades of courage that I want to go to for help? And am I that type of person? And it takes trust, it takes preparation, it takes fortitude and resilience and connection, authenticity, compassion, empathy, all those core values that build that relationship that lead to the next step. I think today more than ever, people smell inauthenticity and baloney pretty quick, from
Yeah.
social media and all the stuff that we see. People want to see the real you. And more than ever, I think we need to be mint chocolate chip in a vanilla chocolate world. We need to be
Yeah.
distinct and unique and different and have a true north that belongs to us, something that we're willing to believe in and not sell out for. This is me as a person, Seth. Like, I don't
Yeah.
sell out. Like, I believe you got to have these core values and not give into fear and into being liked, et cetera. And I think you can attract people to that, but also, especially in life and in relationships and in business, that also means you may lose some type of constituents and partners or business because you are a distinct flavor. You're true and authentic. And so for that matter, to build a loyal following, a loyal, trusting, committed base of relationships, you may need to say no, or they may need to say no to you. Because I don't
That,
believe, it's about being distinct. And that does take a lot of work. It takes a lot of self-reflection, evaluation, and truthfulness just to really go deep
yeah.
get
And that,
people
and
through
that, and
that.
that core virtue or that aspiration of being somebody that comes to you. I know you and I know you well enough to know it's not about admire me, come to me. I'm the mountain. I'm going to give you the answers. It's more that if there is the juice, it's in being able to make the impact and give back and that generosity of spirit and the contribution because you've had that yourself, been on the receiving end.
Yeah.
And that's the richness. So it's a cliche and you've said it probably 1.92 million times, but wingmen never fly solo, right? We
Right.
never fly
Right.
solo. And it's no different in today's world. I'm going to land this plane, but bear with me here for a
Yep.
minute, okay? That's just the first of many flight metaphors. So
Sure.
keep your seatbelt on, and there might be some turbulence along the way.
Yeah.
I know your child, your son Ace, was just bar mitzvah, so mazel tov, congratulations, and
Yep.
congratulations mainly to him because it's such an accomplishment. It's a beautiful rite of passage, and there's a lot of hard work that goes into that. But you, as a father, and continuing a tradition and instilling, what you believe is important to you, and you're a wingman for him,
Sure.
passing it down and instilled in your son is that same empathy, grit, resilience, know-how, seeking people out to reach for and ask for guidance and counsel. So, when I was preparing for this, I noticed on one of your social media posts, you said something about 3 daily wins, needing 3 daily wins. And I'm going to land the plane here and then you can clean it up for me. You have a higher rank than me, so I count on
Yep.
count on the higher pay grades to kind of round me out here a little bit. But that needing the 3 daily wins and being somebody who is authentic, talking the talk, walking the walk. It's the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. Elaborate on why you found that so touching, so inspiring, so moving, and what advice do you have for our listeners or anybody that mindset is so important?
So the three wins are physical, mental, and spiritual. And it came from a couple of people talk about that. I didn't make it up. I read it in some book because I think it's important for us to read and expand the context and parameters of our life. If you're flying inside your own cockpit all the time, you kind of are limited to the perspective. That's why relationships and books and videos and experiences are the texture of life. And it's about evolving and growth. We can't stay stagnant. That's one of the biggest things I talk about my son. And really is about holistically developing, not just in a physical, not just in a spiritual and mental way, but always thinking, how can I develop those three legs of that stool? And some people are really good at one or two, but I think to truly reach new heights in life, you have to work on all three and you must be intentional about it. You can't wing it. We say wingmen never wing it. So today, a spiritual prayer. I like to read something from Ernest Holmes. He's a very holistic author from the 30s and 40s, kind of set the vector of your day. And then I did some yoga. I want to stretch this yoga teacher that I follow online. That's just really amazing about the mentality and the spirituality of the practice, that things are going to
Right.
change and you need to breathe through it. Life's going to have up and downs, and sometimes pain is going to lead to growth. And then the mental win obviously is the reading. It's the conversation. It's the perspective that you get when you surround yourself from others and expose yourself to other things. And so, as a fighter pilot, I learned a lot of these things in combat and flying jets, but really the impetus and the glue, the true synapse firing happen with others, the people,
Right.
and I think one conversation you have with somebody, the solution may not necessarily be what they told you from their experience, but maybe from the book they read, or the relationship that they want to introduce you to, or the practice and discipline that they follow that could impact you. So always having your radar sweeping to other ideas, opportunities, and things in life. And that'll change from a 25-year-old to a 55-year-old. That'll change when you're single or maybe have a child who's depending on you. That'll change when your life flashes before your eyes, like it did for me on 65 combat missions, in particular 3 where I was shot at. Those spot weld moments will change you. And if you're in touch with them and you're receptive to them and willing to do the work to grow, life is rich and beautiful, as opposed to the negativity that we see on social media and the news when you swipe left on your phone or right.
Yeah.
And you expose yourself to the garbage. The world is a beautiful place,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, yeah, it's you are what you read, you are what you eat. And it sounds so simple, and I'll use the word again, cliche, but there is a
Sure.
power to it. It takes a discipline of conduct, and it takes the habit forming to be able to navigate and steer in the right direction. What would you say, whether it's to your young boy, 13-year-old, or to any young professional out there who is hungry to grow, doesn't know how to get started, or can't identify what's in their way? They're either embarrassed, ashamed, don't know the right way to approach somebody, but there is underneath that impediment, that desire to grow. What would you say to them?
So first, you have to have some type of goal, a small goal, a big goal, something that is going to get in this 360-degree world that we're flying in, a vector, a direction that you need to go at. If you want to lose 5 pounds, all right, that's great. If you want to be a starting center forward on your soccer team, great. If you want to be able to play the piano, participate in a recital, have some goal and then work your way back from that goal. As fighter pilots, we started with the target, the bridge, the target that we're going to take out. We always plan backwards from that. And so when you do that, it forces you to think about the steps that you need to take in order to hit that goal. And you have to be intentional about it. You have to take one step at a time. You have to be okay not with getting immediate results. Patience is key, but progress with patience will lead to growth, incremental growth. When you're working out, you may say, okay, I'm going to commit myself to 3 days a week, 45 minutes a day. I'm going to do A, B, and C, and this is going to be my workout. You're not going to get the results after the first day or the week or even the first month, but slowly and surely the results will reveal themselves. So patience, really, really key. Having a plan, really, really key. And then also surround yourself with others who are going to believe in you and get you on the right path and who are willing to kick your butt and a little bit and love you enough to piss you off to get you in the right direction. Meaning don't spend time with yes men and women. Don't spend time with friends who aren't emulating excellence in their own life. Don't spend time with friends and people who are accepting your mediocrity or coming off your flight path. I have a saying, or make your friends your mentors and your mentors your friends. Make your friends your mentors and your mentors your friends. You want to be around folks who are emulating it. And my friends in my life, if they're not pissing me off, making the hair stand up in the back of my neck or bruising my ego every so often, then they're not my friends because they love
Yeah.
me enough to do that. So really, really important. Jim Rohn, as you know, I'm sure you know what Jim Rohn said, don't spend major time with minor people. My dad said,
Yeah.
be careful who you spend time with on the weekends. And I think that's the key. Your relationships matter.
Yeah, my version of that same concept is we have structures in our life. A calendar is a structure. How you set up your office is a structure. But the most powerful, most important structures are people.
Hmm.
and they're the structure for your existence.
Sure.
And what that structure is made up of is going to really determine your altitude, you
Hmm.
know? So thank you, because I ask that because I know, you believe that life and business are not simulations, and that every lesson you receive during I'm talking to you, Waldo, that you've received during your jet fighter combat and training missions can be taught to organizations that you speak to. And everybody, and I mean this really, is looking for high performing ideas, high performing methodologies, high performing thought leadership, where they can take that in and their teams can function under pressure. I want you to share with us whether it's the most challenging moments. You mentioned 3 times you were shot at, and that translates the lessons learned there. But in today's challenging environment, where we're being pulled in so many different directions, there's chaos. There is no normal. There is no new normal. There's a lot of turbulence, a lot of disruptions. How do you access peak performance? How do you attain that in this kind of highly competitive environment?
I think it really has to do with
And
how
again,
you,
that was a big word salad. So clean me up one more time,
yeah, I'm,
coach.
I'm, I'm connected with it. I'm kind of processing it, but yeah, I'm reflecting on it in my own life because I think you're only tested. Your commitment, your mindset of excellence, your courage is only tested when fear strikes, when you're kicked in the gut, when your test results are positive, when you lose the sale, when the divorce paperwork gets signed, when your kids are diagnosed with an autoimmune disease or whatever it is. How you respond to that is truly going to determine your ability to be a peak performer. And this is why a lot of what I'm doing now, and I've been speaking 21 years, but just in the last couple of years, I'm going more into my struggles with claustrophobia and panic attacks as a fighter pilot. I don't know if you ever got that from some of my content.
A
Uh,
lot. The irony is you're in a very small contained environment. I don't know if you noticed that as a fighter pilot,
yeah.
and you have claustrophobia, and in combat you almost ejected because you were having a panic attack, and it's very real.
And so how you perform through that fear and still accomplish the mission. Everybody in combat was afraid. We were all afraid. But how you deal with that fear and still take the next step and still perform. I'm not talking about theoretical fear here. I'm not talking about, oh, there's pressure on me because I'm the first pilot doing this, or I may be judged, or what. I'm talking about missiles coming at you and being in a cockpit for 6 or 7 hours over Iraq, and then suddenly I got to get the heck out of this plane. I'm freaking out right now. How do I control myself and do my damn job and still understand that others are depending on you to do that job? And so when I went through my struggles with claustrophobia, we could talk about this for 6 hours on end. It humbled me to realize that resilience and your ability to focus and get the job done, despite that fear, despite the panic, despite the heart pounding, despite the possibility that you may fail, that you may die, that you may lose. That is where the test is. And so, what I teach my son, what I teach my peers and friends, what I'm teaching myself every single day is to get comfortable going through that struggle, that anxiety and pain, getting used to it, and then still operating through that. And at first, it's going to be tough. You're going to struggle. You're going to want to quit. You may fail in that process. But the more you do it and expose yourself to these anxieties and panics and failures, the more you're able to take that risk and continue to strap in and face those panic attacks and issues in life. And thus, the confidence comes. And then when the confidence comes, you're willing to take more risks. You're willing to be more courageous. But in order to do that, your skills need to also develop. So it pushes you to ask for help, to read the book, to do the fitness routines, to participate in the protocols that will allow you to be a peak performer from the head to the heart and to the hands where you're doing your skills. So operating through those environments is key. And one of the keys, and I know we have limited time here, is really distracting yourself from yourself when you're having these moments of fear and panic. And in combat, when I was flying, And I was like, I got to get the heck out of this plane. As soon as I distracted myself and focused on my team, the folks that I was flying with, checking their six, their blind spots, realizing that I was important to them, that I was needed, suddenly I no longer was focused on me, which is where anxiety and panic come, which I was able to bleed it out and realize the higher calling in life, service and love, allowed me to be present and give my gift, which is to help others. And when you're doing that, you're in flow, you're in the zone. Fear isn't a factor. It may kick you in the gut when you land the plane and hit the bar or grab some breakfast after that 7 or 8 hour mission. But in that moment, connecting with others and knowing that others are there for you, it'll keep you in the jet, keep you flying, helping you take that next step in whatever it is that you're pursuing.
Yeah, and I think, coming full circle, service and love, if you're grounded, and as an airman, you don't like to be grounded, but if you're anchored and if you're being sourced from that service and love, then I think naturally, obviously there's some nuts and bolts to it, but you become that person that people count on, that we talked about at the top of the podcast, and people seek out for partnership, collaboration, leadership, teamwork, counsel, advice, somebody to lean on. And I think, it's clearly embedded in your DNA. I want to shift gears a little bit that's related to service and love, and something that I know is near and dear to you and your foundation, the Wingman Foundation.
Right.
The mission, you all, and clean me up again here where I miss, but you raise funds and awareness for soldiers, for veterans and their families in need. I want to connect this, community is so important. And research that I've read about the event industry shows that the power and the value of audience members connecting, and it gives a huge value to an event and establishes a community. And community is one of the values that people that attend conferences really
Sure.
value, and that create, even event planners value that community because they want to be some part of something bigger. In your foundation, clearly it's important for you to give back. What do you say to those that are with desire, have that need to serve, to give back, and fostering that sense of community during events, after events, before events, where there might be an opportunity to connect with the community and give back?
So it's funny that you mentioned that. There's a lot of people like, oh, I didn't serve in the military. I wasn't in combat. I'm just a software salesperson. Or I'm just a nurse at a hospital. But everybody has an opportunity to serve, and you don't need to wear a flight suit or fly an F-16 to do it. I end my speeches. Recently, I changed this in the last year on a quote that I made up probably 5 or 6 years ago during Veterans Day. And I was really pondering my future, who I am. Actually, it was probably more like 10 years ago. And the quote is this, and I'm going to say Americans, but it could be people. And so my quote is, if you want to say thank you to the Americans who fight for our country, then be the type of American worth fighting for. And so that means waking up every single day with honor, looking at yourself saying, I'm giving to my community. I'm on the phone like I was this week, twice with new emerging speakers, spending my time, giving my wings away, not posting it on social media for a like, but because it's part of my ethos and because people lifted me up and coached me and mentored me along the way. They gave their wings to me. And I'm showing these pictures to you because I want you to see the analogy of it in life. When you do that and emulate the excellence, often behind the scenes that nobody sees, then that builds confidence and faith in yourself. When you look at the news and you see people, men, women, first responders, whatever, out there in battle, fighting for love and right for people who don't have the wherewithal to support themselves, who are struggling, then you could say, I'm doing it in my own way. And so folks who are fighting for me, our fighter pilots, our Navy SEALs, our veterans, our first responders, I'm worthy of that because I'm doing the work myself and I'm contributing. And so that is such an important asset in life. It builds confidence. It gives meaning to your mission, the why before you fly. And it's just the thrust you need to make it through some tough days, because sometimes you're going to need to say the three most important words in your life, which are, I need help. And so when you ask with honor, knowing that you're going to pay it forward, ask away. Ask others for help. Have the courage to take your mask off and be transparent and vulnerable, because deep down, you know you've been giving your wings away. You're serving. And so it's a quid pro quo symbiotic relationship in the world. I believe in energy and love and guidance, spirituality, faith, whatever you call it. And I think that's part of the reason why I love doing what I do, because I know I'm building that confidence. I'm doing the hard work. And there's so many people in my career and my life every single day. Somebody's helping me out and hooking me up, man. And I just say, well, the universe is paying me back. And I'm just going to keep doing it forward. And that's why the people in the room and conferences, you may be the one there struggling. Just look to your left and right.
That's right.
Ask for help. Hey, the answer may not necessarily be from the stage. It's from that Top Gun sitting next to you. And the thing that happens a week after that program and the relationship that you nurture. So,
yeah, I can tell you, just beautiful, and again, I'm just present to the love and the contribution and the generosity of spirit. But I can't tell you how many conferences. You and I go to a ton of conferences.
sure.
And during Q&A, which I know you love, it's such a rich, there's a spark to it, right? I mean, your keynotes are magnificent, and there's energy and great anecdotes and life lessons and that you can use right away. But in that Q&A, it has a different texture to it,
Yes.
And I can't tell you how many times that I've been in a Q&A where I've had several speakers at a conference, and somebody will get up and ask something personal. I don't know, their child has dyslexia, or they have some challenge in the community. And what do they, from their perspective, recommend that they do? And then during the break, you'll see 3 or 4 people come up to that person and say, hey, you know what? I'm the regional president of XYZ association or foundation, and we would love to come into your community and see if we could set something up. And that's just because that person was vulnerable, willing, communicated, extended themselves, shared, spoke up, stood for something, and then the energy flows your way. And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, I see it all the time.
That's the beauty of those meetings, and when people are willing to be vulnerable and ask for help, and setting the energy and the tone in that room, the vector. And if you could create a whole conference like that,
Yeah.
where people are connecting and asking and all that. Once again, the keynoter, the speaker, whoever was on the platform at the time, if they can set that vector, phew, that's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing. And I think that's what we do as keynoters on the closing or to opening, to set the trend and the theme of that meeting, or to send them on their way with a call to action. But at the end of the day, the truth comes from the person on that platform. They must be authentic. People smell the inauthenticity. We have to have done the work. We have to have done the work. And that's why I love talking on these podcasts or on stage when these questions are popping up. Because, hey, sometimes I don't know, or let me research that, or does anybody have an answer in the room for this young man or woman? Because I
That's
don't,
right.
right?
That's right.
And that's okay. You can't be all
That's
things
right.
to all people. But I love
Yeah.
being challenged like that. And it's a beautiful thing when we could be the spark to the answers of people in their personal and professional lives, man. That's really what it's all about. Because when you're
Yep.
doing well, it's great. But it's when those struggles come that the true test to performance happens, right?
Yeah, and it's I'll just take it a little bit further. We're coming to the end of our conversation here. I feel like we're going to leave some stuff on the table, but it's about legacy. And I've asked you offline, if you had your Andy Warhol moment of what is it that you would share with the world, and I'm gonna put it in my own words, but it's like, be the person that people want to count on, be the person that people can reach for, that people can know that you have their back. And you use the word ethos, I use the phrase core virtue, and that's really who you are. And that's the legacy, right? Whether it's from the keynote stage, whether it's with your son, that's the through line that's emanating. You call it a vector, I'll call it a through line,
Right.
that is being spread out, because you never know who's listening. You never know who you're sitting next to. You never know who the person sitting next to you is sitting next to, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to finish on this. I'm going to bring it back full circle to our families, your son, and the legacy. And, I lost my father around the same time that you were bar mitzvahed, and your father was my age. and meaning my age now. And just that connective tissue of passing along the leadership of a family and how that emanates out into the business world, into your community of veterans, into your foundation, into all the keynote work that you do. You are showing the way and being vulnerable. And just speak to that. You know, I was 13. February was my bar mitzvah. My father passed away that year in November.
Wow.
Okay. He was 47.
Wow.
My daughters were born when I was 47. And in 3 years, they're going to be bat mitzvah. And I just think a lot about the contribution. Wake up every day. Today's going to be a great day. That's our phrase in our house. Life is, and they have to fill in the blank, an adventure. And, you know, I'm just very in touch with that paying it forward, Waldo, and the training and the agony and the panic attacks and being shot at in combat is all the gifts that you've been able to absorb and internalize and then give back in your own version. And just talk about, like, you know, the very few people that have gotten to be a Hall of Fame speaker, less than 200 in the world, less than almost 6% of all speakers in the world. What's that like for you on a level of satisfaction and experience to be able to pull all that in and then give it away? Sorry, that's a 3 or 4 more podcasts.
No, exactly. Yeah. Look, but I think you have to earn your wings every day. Every day, you got to rehack the clock. No one cares what you did yesterday. Tomorrow's in the future. You got to be present and do the work. But having that vector of joy is really, really key. And I learned this, like, you know, I talked to a speaker 2 days ago. He overcame brain cancer. The doctor told me I had 7 months to live, and it's 7 or 8 years later. And now he's speaking about hope. There's a book, Hope is Not a Strategy. You know, every year that book, Hope is Not a Strategy. It's
it
early
sounds familiar.
90s, and it was really popular. It's from an author here in Atlanta. I can't even remember his name. Forgive me. But I'm like, and he's like, hope is not a strategy. I said, dude, hope is a strategy. You need to tagline that. Hope is a strategy. It's got to be combined with action and sweat and grit. But hope is a strategy. And hope means you see something positive on the other side. There is an outcome that's available to you, that there is light beyond the darkness. I've seen the darkness. I've experienced it. We all have. But when you, like you said, when you give that gift to your children and have them think about the positivity and the blessings of life, now we're focused on that vector, the end goal of joy rather than fear, of accomplishment, of making things happen as opposed to failure. Now, you got to prepare for the worst, but expect the best. You got to put in the work so those missiles and changes come. You got to sweat, but ultimately, you got to have that conduit, that connection to the joys of life. And that's the legacy that I want to live. One of the quotes I say in my speeches, and I didn't make this quote up, is, when you sip from the fountain, don't forget who dug the well. And I love talking about core values and who you are and the wells that we dig. I want to be a well digger. I want, 30, 40 years from now, when I die peacefully and very, very fast in my sleep, that said, Waldo was a giver. He dug the well. He was tough. He didn't handle mediocrity very well. He had that New York intensity about him, but he was a lover and he fought for what was right. That's what I want to teach my friends, my child. That's what I want to bring into the world, that sometimes we got to fight for the things that we love, that and truly, that we want to not just fight for, but love for.
That's right.
That has to be the paradigm. And that's the gift that I want to give. And it takes work. It takes sweat. Man, it's going to take a couple missile launches and combat missions and anxiety, panic attacks. But on the opposite side of that fear is growth and life and love. And that's the gift. That's the beauty of what we're all going through as human beings.
Well, I think that's a great point to kind of land this plane. But I can't resist of saying, you just said the growth. We often say, summon the courage, right? I think that courage is acquired after you face the fear.
Sure.
And the growth is acquired after you go through that pain of digging the well. And the love is acquired after you've perhaps shoulder to shoulder gone through some dark moments with people and you know that you're there for each other.
Right.
So I just love your message, Waldo. This has been an incredible conversation. And I really do mean, I think we left some on the table. We can come back and take off where we landed this plane. I just want to underscore and mark and highlight your generosity of coming on the podcast, sharing your passion, your energy, your core virtues, and providing the vector for all of our listeners to be a guiding light by. So just thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity for what you do. You dig a lot of wells as well and make a big impact. And I know this podcast and all of your podcasts, even if it's one small glimpse of context and insight that people can gain, this is how we grow. And this is what makes us want to jump out of bed and live with joy. It's good stuff.
Thank you. And you're very welcome. Thank you. And our listeners who have continued to come back, thank you for listening. And for those first timers, we appreciate you giving us a shot. Share it with everybody. Coming to visit with us on the Keynote Curators podcast. You're going to be smarter for it. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.